Talking about non-competes in this video, and more specifically, some regulatory actions that may be coming down the road that affect businesses that use non-compete agreements. Before we get started, I really would appreciate it if you would hit the subscribe button that you see down below. And if you want to find out when we post new information, you can hit the little bell down there and you'll get a notice when we post new videos. So last week, or probably by the time you're reading this, the Biden administration put out an executive order looking at a whole of government effort to increase competition, and they're looking at a wide variety of things. The executive order covered everything from antitrust investigations against big tech to something a little bit more close to home for me, which was non-compete agreements. The Biden administration has ordered the Federal Trade Commission to look into a rule that would limit the use of non-compete agreements for certain classes and categories of employees. Now, there's not a whole lot of details available about what the Federal Trade Commission is going to be looking at, what they're going to be writing in terms of the rules, but it is amongst my colleagues who are involved with employment law. There's probably going to be some ban on lower level and blue collar workers who are going to be told, employers are going to be told you can't put those employees on non-compete agreements. And the question really remains, how far up the business chain is this ban on non-compete agreements going to take place? There are already 4 states and the District of Columbia that ban non-compete agreements in the vast majority of cases. Some of the exceptions are for example, senior executives at large corporations, publicly traded corporations, but for the most part, it's against public policy to have a non-compete agreement. Now, personally, I'm not a big fan of non-compete agreements, largely because I think from a philosophical and principle point of view, I do think that they are a restraint on trade, which is how most courts take a look at it. So non-compete agreements tend to be enforced very, very narrowly. So if you're going to have a non-compete agreement, it should be fairly narrowly drawn. And that fairly narrow draw of the non-compete agreement should be looking at protecting the company's vital interests. So what would be a vital interest, you may ask? Well, protecting the ability of the company to maintain its customers, maintain its trade secrets, maintain its confidential information so that an employee can't leave the company and then use that information to build a new company or to go to work at another company and compete against their former employer. Hence the phrase non-compete. Now, there are times when I believe a non-compete is reasonable. And I believe there are times when a non-compete is in the best interests of a particular company. But because non-competes tell somebody they can't engage in their chosen profession, it also has to be narrowly tailored in terms of both time and geography. And those are the factors that a court is generally going to look at. Now, and there are some businesses, for example, medical businesses, where companies will put their medical providers on a non-compete largely to prevent that provider from leaving the company, going a few miles down the road and establishing a new practice and taking the patients with them. That's a reasonable and legitimate business concern, and so you can structure a non-compete agreement to address that particular issue. But if you're looking at preventing a loss of customers, your better solution would be a non-solicitation agreement. Non-solicitation agreement says that a departing employee may not solicit or seek out current customers of your company in order to build their company. And these restrictions are usually a little bit more rigidly enforced by the court, but tend to be a little bit broader. See, because what you're saying with a non-solicitation agreement is that you, the employee, can go work in your chosen field. It's just this small universe of potential customers that you cannot solicit. So bear in mind that the more narrow and more niche the business is, the smaller the customer pool is. So even if you call it a non-solicitation agreement, if you make it pretty much impossible for a business to solicit customers because there's a small customer base, then it's going to look a lot more like a non-compete. And then you're getting into different sort of interpretations. So getting back to the start of this video with the Biden administration ordering the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, to put together a regulation, chances are it's going to be a few months before we see a draft regulation. And then there'll be a period in which there'll be some comment time available in which people can make a complaint or urge the Federal Trade Commission to look at particular things. It's required under the regulatory promulgation acts out there, the Administrative Procedures Act and things of that nature. So it won't be a regulation that's going to be implemented anytime in the next 6 months at least. And we're probably realistically looking at implementation about a year from now, assuming the Federal Trade Commission moves forward. On a personal level, I'm not quite sure the Federal Trade Commission has the statutory authority to engage in this kind of regulation, but we will see what happens. There will certainly be some court challenges involved in some of these regulations, so stay tuned. In the meantime, if you are a business who thinks you may need a non-compete agreement, or you're a business that uses non-compete agreements, now is a good time to start taking a look at those and making any modifications that may be necessary to ensure that your non-compete agreements are enforceable and appropriate. In the meantime, go out and watch some live soccer, and I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.